Making headlines this hour, President Dr. Mohammad Muiz says that the nation remembers its martyrs with deep gratitude. Minister of Divehi Language, Culture and Heritage Adam Nasir Ibrahim says that Maldivians must remain prepared to fight for their independence just as previous generations made sacrifices to protect the nation. Maldives holds discussion with United Kingdom seeking assistance to address the impacts of climate change.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Abdullah Ahil. And now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz says that the nation remembers its martyrs with deep gratitude.
The president made the remarks in a message shared on social media to commemorate Martyrs' Day. Today marks the 482nd anniversary of the martyrdom of King Ali. In his post, the president said the spirit of courage and skill demonstrated by the national hero who fought the enemy on 1st of Shawban 965 on Hijri calendar will continue to live on in the Maldives. He further stated that the enduring memory of those who fought for the country as well as the brave sons who were martyred while serving in national service is commemorated with equal gratitude. In his message, the president said that determined children such as King Ali will continue to uphold the dignity of every Maldivian generation. He also expressed hope that the Maldives will remain independent under the abundant blessings of Allah. In a message shared on social media, the First Lady Sajida Mohammed also marked the occasion. Remembering the brave jihad of King Ali, she wished the Maldivian people a happy Martyrs' Day and said she always prays for the Maldives to remain in peace and freedom. Martyrs' Day is observed annually on the 1st of Shawban to commemorate heroes who sacrificed their lives in defending the country and Islam. The day was first observed on 1st of Shawban 1400 in Hijri calendar, corresponding to 14 June 1980. The day commemorates the jihad of King Ali in defending the Maldives against the Portuguese, the sacrifices made by Boduta Kurfan and his companions, and the martyrs who lost their lives during the armed attack on Maldives during the 3rd of November.
The Maldives commemorates Martyrs' Day on the first day of Shawban in the Islamic calendar, paying solemn tribute to the men who laid down their lives in defense of the nation's sovereignty and the Islamic faith that underpins Maldivian society.
The observance honors Sultan Ali VI, who fell in battle in 1558 while resisting Portuguese colonial forces. Revered as a national hero and martyr, Sultan Ali VI's resistance is widely regarded as a defining chapter in the Maldives' struggle to preserve its independence and religious identity. Martyrs' Day has been officially observed since 1400 in the Islamic calendar, corresponding to 14 June 1980, and remains a central moment of national reflection and remembrance. In contemporary history, the day also signifies the 19 Maldivians who lost their lives during the armed attack on 3rd November 1988 when mercenaries linked to a Tamil secessionist group from Sri Lanka, aided by a group of Maldivian collaborators, attempted to overthrow the elected government. Their sacrifice is remembered as a pivotal moment in safeguarding the country's democratic order and territorial integrity. Martyrs' Day stands as a powerful symbol of national unity, underscoring the responsibility of every citizen to honor the legacy of those who fought for the country's freedom. It serves as a reminder that the security, unity, and prosperity of the Maldives has been secured at great cost, and that future generations, particularly the youth, must draw inspiration from these sacrifices to uphold nationalism and work towards a resilient and prosperous nation.
Minister of Divehi Language, Culture and Heritage Adam Nasir Ibrahim says that Maldivians must remain prepared to fight for their independence, just as previous generations made sacrifices to protect the nation.
The minister made the remarks while speaking at a panel discussion held to mark the 1447th Martyrs' Day. In his address, the minister said that the Maldives' 4,000-year-old history has been shaped by sacrifice, including countless sleepless nights, and acts of selflessness by earlier generations. He cautioned that it cannot be taken for granted that the aggressive attacks faced by the Maldives in the past will not recur in a different form. He stressed the importance of continued vigilance in safeguarding the country's independence, calling on the public to face any challenges with courage and determination. The minister said that the current government is making significant efforts to strengthen historical awareness among the public. He further stated that no country has the right to ignore threats to its independence and urged the public to remain alert to the ongoing intellectual warfare in the world. The minister emphasized that every Maldivian should be cautious about what they see, the information they consume, and the knowledge they acquire, adding that people should always reflect on what is most beneficial for them and for the nation.
Recipient of the Order of the Distinguished Rule of Izzuddin, or ORDRI, Abbas Ibrahim, says that those who stand firm for what is right are carrying out the same work as martyrs. He made the remarks while speaking at a panel discussion held to mark the 1447th Martyrs' Day.
Speaking at the event, Abbas Ibrahim said the word martyr deeply touches the heart due to the meaning conveyed in Quranic verses, the stories narrated about martyrs, and the aspiration among believers to attain martyrdom. He said that in Islam, martyrs are regarded as individuals who strive for the sake of faith and religion. According to Abbas Ibrahim, such individuals resist injustice and demonstrate their sacrifices through courage and determination. He further stated that not all martyrs are necessarily mortal, adding that a person's lifelong efforts in strive for martyrdom equates to the deed of martyrs. Abbas Ibrahim also noted that some individuals have recently questioned the sacrifices made by national heroes who fought for the country, describing such action as a threat to the nation. The panel discussion was also attended by Kashima Ahmad Shakir, Colonel Hussein Ali, and Sheikh Ahmad Fahmi Didi. Martyrs' Day is commemorated on the anniversary of the martyrdom of King Ali, who was killed while fighting for the liberation of Maldives from Portuguese rule. The day also serves to honor Islam and the national heroes who fought for the freedom of the people. Martyrs' Day was first observed in the Maldives on 1st Shawban 1400 in Islamic calendar, corresponding to 14 June 1980.
In response to growing concerns over students' comprehension of Islamic teachings, Minister of Islamic Affairs Dr. Muhammad Shahim Ali Saeed affirms that teaching the Islam subject in English poses no issue as long as students understand the material.
The minister's remark comes amid public debate about the difficulty many students face in grasping lessons from Islamic textbooks exclusively in Divehi language. Acknowledging these challenges, Minister Shahim emphasized the need to revise the current Islamic curriculum to make it more accessible to the modern generation. In a recent social media post, he urged educators and curriculum developers to simplify content, restructure book layout, and tailor lessons to students' age and grade levels. He also recommended dividing Islamic studies into distinct subject areas across educational stages to enhance clarity and understanding. On the topic of language, the minister stated that using English as a medium of instruction is accepted when it aids comprehension, particularly for students more fluent in English. However, he stressed the importance of strengthening the Divehi language, advocating for its use across the educational system to ensure its development and preservation. Teaching Divehi as a dedicated subject, he noted, is beneficial but insufficient. System-wide adoption is key to linguistic advancement.
The 51st session of the Universal Periodic Review, or UPR, begins at the Palais des Nations in Geneva, bringing together United Nations member states to assess global human rights records.
The two-week session, which runs until 30th January 2026, will see the UN Human Rights Council's UPR Working Group examine the human rights situation in 13 countries: Australia, Austria, Georgia, Lebanon, Mauritania, the Federated States of Micronesia, Nauru, Nepal, Oman, Rwanda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Tom and Principe are the nations currently in review. The Maldives is participating actively in the session, with its delegation set to engage in the review process and offer recommendations to all states under examination in line with the government's key policies and priorities. The UPR Working Group meets 3 times each year as part of a state-driven process that reviews the human rights performance of all UN member states. The current 4th cycle of the UPR began in November 2022 and is scheduled to conclude in 2027. Under the UPR mechanism, each country reports on progress made in meeting its human rights obligations and commitments, while other member states provide peer-based constructive recommendations aimed at further improvement. The Maldivian delegation to the 51st session is led by Dr. Salma Rashid, the permanent representative of the Maldives to the United Nations office at Geneva. She is joined by Councillor Adam Hamid, Councillor Ustaz Aminat Shifaya Ibrahim, Second Secretary Aishat Rayahin, and Attaché Raid Saeed from the Maldives Permanent Mission in Geneva.
Maldives holds discussions with the United Kingdom seeking assistance to address the impacts of climate change.
The meeting was attended by the British High Commissioner to Maldives, Nick Lowe, along with representatives of the British High Commission, Director General of the Climate Change Department at the Ministry of Tourism and Environment, Amjad Abdullah, attended the meeting. The discussion focused on disasters and irreversible damage caused by climate change. During the meeting, the ministry highlighted climate change-related emergencies, including increased rainfall, flooding, and sea level rise, as well as long-term environmental damage such as coral bleaching. The two sides discussed the technical and financial assistance that the United Kingdom could provide to address these impacts. The meeting also included discussions on ongoing efforts to secure financial support from international climate funds, while both sides sharing their priorities in this regard. Emphasis was placed on the importance of cooperation at both national and international levels to mitigate and adapt to the impacts of climate change. The Maldives urged the United Kingdom to continue its international efforts in addressing climate change, while further opportunities for bilateral cooperation in this area was also discussed.
Data released by the Ministry of Tourism and Environment, or MOTE, shows that Maafaru International Airport has recorded the highest number of tourist arrivals to the Maldives in 2026 so far, after Velana International Airport.
According to Ministry of Tourism and Environment statistics, 127,486 tourists entered the Maldives through Velana International Airport, while 514 tourists arrived via Maafaru International Airport. Maafaru International Airport is particularly popular among private jet travelers. As the peak tourism season begins, more than 200 private jet movements have already been recorded, with total jet movements expected to reach 800 by the end of the season. The construction of Maafaru International Airport was funded by the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development under a $60 million initiative. The airport is operated by Island Aviation Limited, which also manages the national flag carrier airline Maldivian. Operations at the airport commenced in 2019, with the facility expanded in several phases. The most recent developments include the expansion of the airport apron. Maafaru International Airport is designed to accommodate narrow-body aircraft, including Airbus A320 and Boeing 737 aircrafts. Ministry statistics further show that a total of 129,201 tourists have visited the Maldives so far in 2026, representing a 9.9% increase compared to the same period last year, when arrivals stood at 117,532. An average of 7,099 tourists are arriving in the Maldives per day this year. The highest daily arrival figure recorded so far this month was on the 11th of January, where 9,596 tourists entered the country. In 2025, the majority of tourists visiting the Maldives were from China. However, arrivals from Russia have dominated tourist numbers in 2026, up from 19th January. The Maldives recorded a historic high in tourist arrivals last year, welcoming more than 2.2 million visitors, with continued growth observed in the tourism sector.
According to the Ministry of Finance and Planning, the Maldives has recorded a marked improvement in its public finances, with the country's budget deficit shrinking by nearly 3/4 over the past year.
Data from the ministry's weekly fiscal development report reveals that the nation reduced its overall budget deficit by $622.57 million in 2025, representing a 73.5% decline compared to 2024. By the end of December, state revenue exceeded $2.57 billion, up 12.9% from $2.28 billion collected the previous year. While the government had projected an annual revenue of $2.58 billion and budgeted $168.61 million in grants for 2025, actual receipts from grants amounted to $26.93 million, falling short of expectations. Nevertheless, the shortfall was more than offset by robust growth in domestic tax and non-tax revenue, which collectively outperformed projections, contributing an additional $129.7 million, representing a 5.5% increase year on year. Tax revenues also reached $1.89 billion, marking a 10.6% rise from $1.71 billion in 2024. This growth was underpinned by a substantial surge in the tourism goods and services tax (TGST), which generated $713.36 million, a 15.2% increase from the previous year. Non-tax revenues also demonstrated strong performance, climbing 24% to $648.51 million from $525.29 million in 2024. Reflecting these gains, the Maldives' overall fiscal deficit was curtailed to $227.01 million by the close of 2025, down from $849.55 million at the end of 2024. The ministry attributed the improvement to prudent fiscal management, highlighting a combination of disciplined expenditure control and revenue-enhancing measures. Significantly, the nation recorded a surplus in its primary balance for the first time in recent memory. The primary balance, which excludes interest payments on public debt and is a key indicator of fiscal health, moved from a deficit of $544.68 million in 2024 to a surplus of $77.84 million in 2025.
The landmark dredging work for the Hulumale Phase 3 reclamation project is nearing completion at a remarkably accelerated pace, with officials announcing that 98% of the task is already finished. According to the Maldives Airports Company Limited, or MACL, a staggering 62 out of the targeted 63 hectares have now been dredged, just 45 days after the work resumed in earnest. At a press conference late last month, Minister of Construction, Housing and Infrastructure Dr. Abdullah Muttalib confirmed the rapid progress, stating the dredging is on track for final completion by the 20th of January. He further announced that the highly anticipated registration process for the new land will commence later January, with plots to be handed over according to the government's schedule. This expedited timeline was achieved through significant government intervention. To overcome previous delays, 2 large dredgers, each with a massive 22,000 cubic meter capacity, were brought in. Work officially restarted in November 2025, utilizing advanced equipment like Boscalis train suction hopper dredger to ensure the project stayed on schedule. The urgency of the project is directly tied to alleviating the housing crisis in the Greater Malé region. The drawing lots for the Bimberia housing scheme land plots has already been conducted, and with dredging nearly complete, the allocations of 698 plots of various sizes is now imminent. Once finished at Hulumale, the large dredgers will be redeployed to other major reclamation projects in Ras Malé, Giravarofalo, Uturutilafalo, and Gulifalo, marking a significant step forward in the government's broader strategy to address housing shortages. Elections Commission of Maldives, or ECM, urges interested candidates to file candidacies as early as possible, with a record number of hopefuls expected to enter the race for April's local council and Women's Development Committee elections.
For the first time, nominations are being accepted exclusively through the Commission's online My Portal platform, marking a digital shift from previous paper-based submissions. Nominations opened 17 January at 8:30 a.m. and will remain open until 3:30 p.m. on the 1st of February. However, Those who wait until the final day risk disqualification, as no corrections will be allowed after the deadline. The ECM has already identified issues in some submissions, particularly concerning criminal and debt clearance records, which now require lifetime disclosure, not just the past 5 years. To streamline verification, the Maldives Correctional and Department of Judicial Administration have issued a standardized template which must be uploaded as a single PDF. Candidates must also submit both sides of their national identity cards. Notification of candidacy accepted will be sent via the portal, email, or residential address, underscoring the need for accurate contact details. With over 4,000 candidates contesting in the last local council elections, ECM has urged all applicants to act promptly, expecting similar numbers this time around as well.
Insights into business. Japan's Nikkei share gauge slides for a fourth straight session as domestic fiscal concerns drove bond yields to record highs, while trade friction between the United States and Europe also weighed on sentiment.
The benchmark Nikkei 225 index fell 0.8% to 53,172.16 in early trade, poised for the longest sell-off in 2 months. The broader topic slid 0.6% to 3,634.19. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi on Monday officially called for the snap election for February 8 and pledged to suspend the nation's sales tax on food, spurring a surge in government bond yields to all-time highs. While U.S. markets were closed for the holiday, European shares slumped overnight after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to impose additional tariffs on 8 European countries until the U.S. is allowed to buy Greenland.
Taking a look at international events, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says that Greenland was not a natural part of Denmark and that the problem of former colonial territories was becoming more acute.
U.S. President Donald Trump has said he wants full U.S. control of Greenland, an autonomous territory of Denmark, for national security reasons. On Saturday, he announced tariffs on imports from European allies that oppose a potential U.S. takeover. Russia has reacted gleefully to the growing U.S.-Europe divide over Greenland and has bristled at Trump's suggestion that Moscow is also seeking control over the island. Speaking at a news conference in Moscow on Tuesday, Lavrov said Russia had no interest in interfering in Greenland's affairs and that Washington knew that Moscow itself had no plans to take control of the island. European countries have said Trump's tariff announcement would violate a trade deal reached with his administration last year. EU leaders are set to discuss possible retaliation at an emergency summit in Brussels on Thursday.
Moving on to world sports, Aston Martin Executive Chairman Lawrence Stroll says the team is set to embark on a development journey as Formula One readies for its biggest technical overhaul in decades.
Speaking in Tokyo at an event to launch Aston Martin's partnership with Honda, Stroll had high hopes for the team's new power unit but acknowledged that they would have no idea how it would stack up against their rivals until they get on track.
We're trying to do as well as we can. You know, again, it's a journey. We first time we're a works team, first time Honda and Aston Martin are working together, first time Adrian is designing the car with us. So there's a lot of new. So the expectations are to do as good as we can, recognizing it's a journey.
Formula One faces a new engine era in the upcoming season as well as a rule change. The sports will see thinner and lighter cars and a 50-50 split on internal combustion using sustainable fuel and electric power. Testing starts behind closed doors in Barcelona on January the 26th before the 2026 championship begins with the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne in early March. Honda unveiled the new power unit for the 2026 season at the event, marking the official start of its exclusive supply deal with Aston Martin. Aston Martin enters the season as a work team with Honda and with new team principal Adrian Newey leading the design of the new car. Honda CEO Toshihiro Mibe said he believed electrification technology became more important this year in order to win given the engine's electric power usage. Andy Cole, Aston Martin's chief strategy officer, said Honda and Aston Martin had set not tough targets but were already deep into validation testing.
Concluding with more lighter news, breeders put their homing pigeons on display at the British Homing World Show of the Year in Blackpool.
The show was launched in 1973 after the general manager of the Royal Pigeon Racing Association created a national showcase for homing pigeons, later settling at Blackpool's Winter Gardens. Now regarded as Europe's largest event of its kind, it has drawn attention from tens of thousands of visitors and raised nearly £3 million for charity. These pigeons are bred in special conditions and their diets are tailored unique to each pigeon. Some of the birds can fetch up to hundreds of thousands of pounds for charity. This show draws pigeon aficionados from all over the country.
And that's all the news we have for today. We'll be back with any further updates. Until then, I'm Abdullah Ahil from PSM News.